Welcome to forever.
Alright, yo, what is up guys? It is me, Mena97 here, and today I'm actually going to be talking to you guys about how I chose my career. And I feel like my story is actually really interesting because it actually came at a really early age. Ever since I was little, I was always just surrounded by video games. My parents, they had a Nintendo Entertainment System, a Super Nintendo, and later on they ended up getting a Nintendo 64 when I got a little bit older. But I basically played those old school Nintendo consoles, and I had a lot of memories just playing those games over and over again. And I guess the repetition just playing those games over and over again got me thinking about some stuff. So I feel like I have this really clear moment in my head about when I first kind of decided of the idea of game development, but I didn't really know what that meant at that moment. But I was playing the game Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, a classic game, and while I was playing it, I don't know what provoked really my mind to kind of think in this direction, but I was just sitting there just playing, you know, maybe as a 5 or 6 year old playing Donkey Kong Country, and I kind of just stopped myself and kind of thought to myself, wait, how is this working? You know, like I understood that, yeah, I plugged in the game into the system and I turn on the power and now I have a game playing and I'm able to actually play the game. But with that thought, I was really intrigued and tried to dig deeper into that question and try to understand what was really happening behind the game. Because like I said, all I knew is that I just turned it on and off and a game appeared on my screen. But then I started thinking about, oh wait, someone actually made this. And when that thought went into my head, I immediately thought, wait, I could make this. I guess whenever I first thought about that, I was just like, oh cool, you know, it would probably be like a lot of fun, really cool to make games like that, because then you get to make it and then play it. And at the time, you know, all I could think about is just playing video games all day, because you know, it's just like a lot of fun, right? It's a really good way to pass time, and not only that, just to relax and just to play a few games. So when I was thinking about game development, I was thinking about making games that I know I would like to play, and hopefully also like my friends at the time or people like my family and that they would also enjoy. So then later on, I gave that idea a little bit more thought, and then I started breaking down what I believe game development was at that time. So I knew that there had to be some design work, so that's something that immediately, once you're playing a game, you just notice that immediately once you hop into the game. The map layout, and not only that, how the way the characters function, that's something that really appealed to me. But I know that's only one part of game development, and later on I ended up learning about game programming and all this other stuff with music, audio, and how to kind of animate the characters and everything like that. And I have another really distinct memory of my parents at the time. A Blockbuster was still a thing, so yes, I am that old, at least from my research, how I was able to find, you know, how people were able to get these DVDs. There were these promotional GameCube DVDs that were sent out to, I guess, Blockbuster members. And in this DVD, it kind of had a lot of really behind the scenes look about the development of some GameCube games and how the way the GameCube was made, and some upcoming games, and something that, you know, as a player you should be really excited and looking forward to the next game. And while I was watching that, I was just really amazed by how the technology was able to bring all of this together. And then ever since then, that just solidified my idea that I definitely want to become a video game developer. But at the moment, you know, later on down the line, I always heard a lot of people talking about programming, and that's something that I kind of also got into my head. If I do want to do game development, I should definitely understand programming. Programming is going to be the essential thing to build your game, and not only that, to add functionality to it, because you could have the design and everything, but I kind of thought if I just had that design alone, that's not enough. So I kind of did put some emphasis on trying to understand programming, and with the very little amount of knowledge I knew and how to obtain certain resources and knowing where to look, I would every now and then just download these like really early like game makers, like something like Game Maker 2D or something like that. I really don't remember exactly like what the title of it was, but I just remember it was very simple, drag and drop, and then all you had to do, I believe, if I remember correctly, because I never really got far with it, but then it came to programming, and once I saw that, I was just like, oh, what do I do here? So then I kind of had it in my head that for game development, I will need this, you know, fundamental programming. So when it came down to all the way to my university years, I would be able to then focus on programming, and make sure that I understood that, you know what, that's going to be the most important thing to be able to succeed and become a really good video game developer. But as years went by, I struggled a lot with programming. As I described to you guys in some other videos, I really struggled a lot with programming. Just things weren't really clicking, and now they click a lot better than at that time. But I just felt like I was just putting a lot of pressure on myself. When I first had the thought of becoming a video game developer, I never really knew that programming was a thing. So why am I putting so much of an emphasis on it when it's something that I never really envisioned as game development? But then after struggling for a little bit, I ended up having a realization that, you know what, game development is not all about programming, and something that I felt like I've been absorbing over the years with not only playing but also thinking about really cool concepts for types of games. And also, I know I haven't talked about this yet, but my parents are actually photographers and they actually do a lot of design work. So I kind of felt like I absorbed a lot of, you know, design fundamentals over the years, and knowing how to kind of set up a scene or, you know, establish a mood with things. And then going back with finally understanding what game development actually meant, it didn't mean that you know had to be a really good programmer, because like how I said earlier, there's people who are creating music for the game, animating the characters, creating the characters, designing the levels. And that's something that, you know, I was kind of leaning more towards. Instead of thinking about the technology side of it, I was more leaning on the art side of it. And you know, I'll just put up on the screen a really quick example of this 2D platformer with some free assets that me and my friends found. We're trying to develop together a 2D platformer, and they just basically told me like, hey, this is what we have, do you think you could design something? And I ended up designing this, what's on the screen. And they were actually really amazed by like how well I was able to not only make a really cool environment with the free assets that we have, I was also able to establish the aesthetics for our game that we were developing at the time. But sadly, we actually didn't end up finishing it, because that was like one of our first few tries on trying to get something going, which, you know, sometimes you have to fail to better your craft. But then from that, we were able to become better game developers. But you know, sometimes it's really interesting, because even as a young person, I kind of had this idea of what I generally wanted to do, but sometimes it takes years and some more knowledge to be able to fully grasp like what exactly you want to do as a career. And I am the type of person that usually when I have something in mind, I really want to achieve that or have the accomplishment of following through with it. So telling my younger self at that time that I wanted to become a video game developer is something that I really wanted to pursue. And as I learned more about it, like how I explained over the years, it just made me like really happy, really excited to continue forward and to kind of explore this new world that I could become a part of. And another thing is, at the time, I never really even thought about, you know, how much money do they make, or what's the value of this, value of that. The most important thing to me was just making a game that people would enjoy, if not myself, because overall I was thinking about games that I play at the time. I would play a lot of 2D platformers, which I would say those are like my best games whenever I do play them. And you know, playing 2D games, 2D platformers my whole life, I think, you know, it kind of shows that way that is something that I would want to pursue, and maybe go into that direction of making my first game in. So if you guys struggle in trying to figure out exactly what you want to do as a career, the first thing I think anyone should do is just figure out, what are you interested in? What's something that will make you happy, something that you have fun doing? And for me at that moment, when I was a little kid, like I said, you know, it's just something that I took as enjoyment and kind of gave it a little bit more thought. Because then you start to realize, wait, other people enjoy this. And not only that, and I can see my friends and my family just, you know, playing all these games and having a good time, and we're just over here all playing together. Gave me some motivation to thinking that this could be a really good career to go into. So if there's something like that and you guys are struggling to find like a career that you really like, you know, just think about something that you really enjoy and just give it that little extra thought. You know, you may even realize that, wait, this could actually become a career, right? Like something like this, even making like YouTube videos, some people make it into a career, but for us, we are doing it at the moment just kind of like as a hobby, and it is really fun. And you know how we're doing everything at the moment, we're just trying to see how far we could get. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please drop a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell down below so you guys could be notified whenever we upload the next video. And alright guys, thanks for watching. Good night.